Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Ed Fields here along with Rogan Smith. We're here in Nassau, Bahamas, doing a show, Ed Fields Live, along with co-host Rogan Smith. She's chuckling. And,
you said Nassau, Bahamas.
I said Nassau in the Bahamas. Is that okay?
Shout out to all of our wonderful listeners. Where? In Grand
Freeport,
Bahama.
Grand Bahama, the Bahamas.
You guys are awesome.
And in Exuma. They hear us in Exuma and in Eleuthera.
Do they?
They
well,
do.
in Eleuthera, I know for sure. Do they hear us in Exuma?
Someone told me they heard me in Eleuthera.
Maybe they were on.
Maybe I'm thinking Exuma, but maybe it's Eleuthera. Like Abaco. Maybe there's a thing. So, because people pick on streaming, People stream, and they also get it on ZNS. Not on ZNS, on Cable
Bahamas. On 960,
so there you have it.
So maybe it's
so
like
let's change this whole promo to saying, welcome Bahamas. In the Bahamas.
What if Crooked Island?
Don't get Maguana,
Inagua,
and all the aguas.
All the southern islands.
Cat Island, Ragged Island, etc., etc.
Yeah. I got to say a shout out to this woman. I call her Auntie Shelley, right?
Yeah, say that.
She works to Atlantis. And when I went over there for a meeting recently, she listens to the show. She could tell me what we were talking about, and she was just so sweet. I was supposed to mention her last show. So shout out to you, girl, Shelley.
Yeah. So a few people.
A lot of folks tune in. Makes me feel really good.
And that's when when they go, well, y'all was saying this, and
they real fans of the show.
Yeah. So thank you to all. We try to remain calm. We try to remain mellow. They call it mellow. What is it?
What?
They call it mellow yellow. You ever heard that song?
I just captioned something
calling
online.
Mellow Yellow?
Mellow Yellow.
Yeah. By the way, there's a movie coming out called Yesterday.
Okay, why do I know? Tell me the premise, because
it's about the Beatles, about an Indian guy.
Oh, he goes.
What's the deal? No one is.
So
he's
they're not
in a
aware of these
world?
songs, and so he's then putting these songs forth, and people are like, this guy just can't stop hitting because he somehow he knows.
The world is a fantasy world.
I don't know.
Because it still looked like London to me. Okay, and that's where the Beatles.
Well,
the Beatles are from Liverpool, as you know, eh? So and they're like, wow, these songs just like wow, yesterday.
Coming up with these great songs.
So you don't know the song, but I got to see that.
That's a fantasy. For me, I always used to wish I knew all the hits. It made a lot. Not that I can sing, but you could write them.
Can you sing?
I cannot sing. I'm a horrible singer. Sound like crap. I can rap though, but I'm gonna rap right now. That's my specialty. I can rap, and I love rap songs.
You can rap? Well, just a little thing.
No. I can do it on the
Put
air.
a little, now.
Biggie is my favorite rapper of all time.
I like the way you call me Big Papa.
Yeah, I
Put
love
your hands
Biggie.
in the air if you're a true player.
Not your. It's you.
Is you a true player?
You're too polite. But if you're a true player.
Well, I told you about the chicken.
Right
I told you about the chicken. I don't fool with no chicken. I go with chicken. Okay? If you're a true player.
Play it.
Yeah, I like it.
Look at you.
I like it like that.
I like it.
Yeah. Because I like it like that.
Cardi B.
Yeah. So I did that to my daughter one day. I walked into the room and I said, "Listen, you need to do this." And she just breaks out laughing. She can come too.
Really well.
Of course.
Look at you. Yeah. A lot of people can't do it.
No, I can't do It sounds like okra to me, but with a cur. So it's easy.
It's a curried okra.
Yeah. So Cardi B, she got them solid. Yeah. So anyway, huh? They ain't really.
No, not a lot is real on her.
Okay. It looks very like a doll, tight.
Did you? I know you like to watch these sorts of stuff. So go and watch her video.
What sorts of stuff that I like to watch?
I can tell you right now, her latest video, press. Okay, so go watch that video, and she's nude in the thing, but you don't see it obviously because it's blurred. But you will see how fake and round and tight the boobs look, and it's not attractive.
They're not natural and pear shaped.
No, it
like
looks
Halle Berry.
like Halle has nice ones.
Oh, I know. I looked at Halle.
It's natural.
I was in Trinidad, as I
natural.
told you, and Tobago, but I was in the Trinidad section at a fete, and Holly stood next to me for 4 hours at this fete.
Is she short or tall?
She's short. She's 5'4", 5'6", something like that. I mean,
she's taller than me. Oh, she was standing.
She's taller than you.
Okay. Yeah.
And she had on, I would say, a sheer top.
Mm-hmm.
And we were talking, Eric was there.
Back. Okay.
And I was talking to her for like hours.
Oh, yeah?
But I was trying to reverse psychology rap.
Which is?
Like, I'm not pretending I don't even know you're here.
Oh, yeah, I like stuff like that.
I was in, like, I talk it up, but I ain't trying to, move and like that. I was like,
And you weren't fanning out.
Look at this guy trying to, like, what is he doing? Look at, what is he doing? What does he think he's doing?
Mm-hmm.
Because that was my reverse psychology move.
Yeah.
Boy, I like this one. He ain't even coming on to me.
That's refreshing.
Maybe I'll take him home. Yeah, but I knew. Listen, first of all, what chance did I have? Zilch.
You can't say that. You might be the quintessential guy to her.
Maybe, but the point, what I'm saying is, I had to go that tact because any kind of rap move would be zilch. Nah. I can't call no rap. Hey, Hallie, what's happening? You want to go to the chicken shack? I mean, what are you going to say? Where you want to go?
What you can offer?
Nothing.
She can't get for herself.
Okay. There's only one thing I can offer, and I'm sure many chaps are willing to offer that.
The chicken.
Chappies, So I just tried to play it cool. Like, listen, I don't even,
Yeah, I bet that's refreshing though, because everybody fans out over them.
I figured the reason, because she stuck, I'm telling you, for 4 hours.
Talking to you.
Yeah.
What y'all talking about?
Just stinks. I was talking about, you're from, Jerry and Ocean Club. We just talking.
Nice.
And we, dancing. We had a little dance. I had a little move, a little twink. It was a twink in there.
Where the receipts?
Eric has some pictures. I didn't take any pictures. It was a phone and stuff. Mm-hmm. But the point I'm making is, and he will validate, and other Bahamians will validate as well, because we were all of this. It was Lara Fett, and yeah, man, and there was no pressure. I was like, boy. I mean, I think I told my wife that if Hallie had said, let's go, I would have to say, well, honey, Hallie asked me.
I gotta go.
And so, you understand, of course. I mean, I give a play with Denzel.
I was going to say, know me already.
Yeah,
so Denzel say, let's
go. Yeah, go with Denzel.
Come on, Shells, let's do this.
Let's do it.
Do it.
This is how Denzel speaks. You serious about that? You serious?
No.
No, isn't like that?
No.
No, let me tell you what he says.
You're not good at it.
I know it. No, there's a phrase that he does that I can do. But I can't remember it now, but it's a phrase.
Anyway, but she has a natural body.
Yeah, but she's pear-shaped. I examined. She didn't even know I was examining. We're going to take a break? Yeah. It's why I just saw undercover. I'm a stealth examiner. We'll be right back.
Hey! That's my
I like
son.
the way you call me Big Papa.
No.
That ain't Big Papa?
That's Hypnotize.
I don't know Hypnotize.
That's him and Puffy.
Oh. So, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, Ed Fields and Rogan Smith. Good evening, Bahamas. Listening on Cable Bahamas. And, of course, streaming on, I think it's 96.1 dot stream. No.
What is it? Kiss 96 FM
dot stream on dot FM. Yeah.
What does it? Say it again.
Kiss 96 dot stream on dot FM
and channel 960 on Cable Bahamas.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Because we haven't called a streaming address in a while.
Yeah, that's how you. I'm trying to get my Denzel on.
No.
Okay, I'm gonna get it because I have it in just one phrase. I only got one phrase, but I forget the phrase now. So anyway, just want to throw a shout out to the sponsors. You got to shout out to Wendy's, Sunshine Insurance, Eric Holmes, Wendy's, Coca-Cola, John Bull, Superwash, Subway, Kentucky Fried Chicken, Burger King. Yeah.
You said Coca-Cola?
I did say Coca-Cola,
okay.
yeah.
Sorry, I missed that.
And I also said Wendy's. Superwash. I said insurance management, of course, and if I didn't, I'm saying it now.
Insurance management.
Yeah. And of course, we got to shout out to Roman Meal Bread. One of the originals, man. Bristol Wines and Spirits. And again, one of the originals. All of the originals. These are the originals. Sip is also a sponsor this year. This little cycle that we got going on.
Good.
Yeah. And of course, I got to shout out to Kelly's, and we have to mention, because we're in that mode, that pre-independence sale, Rogan, and that's get ready for the celebration in summertime. And I don't even want to do that script. I'm going to say, look, I need you people to go out and get flags, man.
Oh,
okay?
They have it. I was in Kelly's.
Did you see the bracket?
A few days ago. No, I didn't. I got some conduit though.
You got to get the flag hit. Get the sales. Get the this. And they got toys, baby items, paint and paint supplies. But you remember to get that Independence memorabilia. Okay, Bahamian flags to tumblers and even blankets.
Bags, everything.
Splash it out this summer with pools and inflatables, new patio furniture, and so much more. Shop Kelly's House and Home pre-Independence sale. That's Friday, June 28th. That gone through July. That's Monday, July 8th, Monday. Happy Independence. So yeah, man. Listen. I was thinking this before I came here. Let's trick this thing out, okay? Get the flags, man. Okay? Get the flags, man, and put it on your house. You know? Put it on your house. A couple of dollars.
Have a nice little healthy competition.
Just put the flag out.
Independence
Get a
Day
pole.
Pride.
You invest in a pole and a flag. Put it out. And you know what? I fly a flag in my house all year. Do you know that? Were you aware of that, Rogan Smith?
I didn't see a flag.
Yeah, I have a flag at my house. Yeah.
Where is it?
It's in the front yard. It's right above the yellow elder tree.
Did I see it?
You see how that goes? I got the yellow elder tree. Let me see if I can fit a picture. I got the yellow elder tree, and the flagpole is right in it.
This has always been up?
It's always been up. I've had a flagpole for eons. Let's see if I can find a picture.
I like to see when the houses have the flags up. Like you go to the States, you always see you go in those certain areas.
Oh Lord, I can't see it in this
thanks,
picture.
Ken.
Oh look,
You'll
I
always
can
see
see
them.
it. Hee hee. Look here.
Let me see.
Come here, girl. Let me show you. Let me show you. See, that's a yellow elder tree.
That's a yellow elder?
It's not. It has a one yellow. It has one. Yeah, but because it's not blooming perfectly. And then see the flag there?
That always been there?
Yes. I'm telling you. I told you about the pole and the base and everything. Yeah, man. I flagging straight through.
Do you bring it down in
No,
the
I
evening?
don't. I have a light on it.
You don't bring it down in the evening?
Once you have a light on, you're allowed to keep it up.
Who says that?
That's the rules.
Where?
Look it up.
No, tell me where to find
I
it.
found out from the Ministry of Works, actually.
As long as you have a light on it?
As long as you cannot have a flag in
the
darkness.
Dark. So as long as you have
So I have a light on it. It's right at
Where
the
do you
patio.
find these rules?
Well, check it out.
Let me
Okay.
get to
That's the rule. There's a light on it. You know about that, right, Ken? If the light on it. If the light
never
on
heard
it.
that.
Yeah. You do the research on that.
Is your light on?
Yeah, of course, it's a house light, so of course
it's a swing round.
It's right on the swing round. Yeah, swing round. Yeah, swing round. Yeah, and you can't get in, so swing round.
Flag etiquette, Bahamas. Let me see here.
Well, I don't think it has to be Bahamas. I think it's the world.
I want to see.
You know. So, a couple of things happening in the news.
Boy.
By the way, our guest this afternoon is going to be Carlton Smith, who had one of the best shows on radio, on Guardian Radio. So he's going to be swinging around. Yeah, so 10 women among 15 shot as gunman attacks birthday party.
Yeah.
Now, let me just say this, and I don't know if they got the guy, but we got to go back to like your Roman days type punishments. You know what I mean? Yeah, you go brutal.
Well,
when you talk about death penalty and all that. Death penalty is actually a kind of a light sentence because it's over in a flash. You need to go like throw him to lions. Do we have any lions?
What's the most? Get an Adastra.
We get some starving pot cakes. That's what. Just get some starving pot cakes and just throw it to it because it's not. He has to be insane. That person has to be insane.
No, they ain't got to be insane. They're just bold and they.
Yeah, but if you're going to shoot, listen, I'm not justifying anything. You're targeting someone, but why do you want to hurt innocent bystanders, kids,
you have
women?
Children involved in this. My God.
See, let me tell you, I saw your column. That one need to get beat. That one.
No, but see, I still disagree with that.
No, I know you do, but I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just saying. You can disagree with that. Yeah, officially, I need you to disagree with that. But listen,
because I like consequences for actions, right?
Well, that's a consequence.
No, I don't want you to be beaten in police custody.
No, I want you to be flogged.
Get your due process and then get convicted and then you decide
can you be flogged?
On what the...
Okay.
Flogging can be a part of the punishment after they've been convicted. I know
that there are people who are going to be very, very disappointed in what I'm about to say, if that's possible for people to be disappointed. I believe in the stocks.
What's that?
Where you have your hand and thing in your neck?
Oh, that's what it's called?
The stocks, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The wooden thing?
Yeah, I know.
Okay. And put you in front of Russell Square. Actually, I don't want you in front of the tourists. I want to be, okay? Put you somewhere like Jumbay Village.
Why are you going to go for Jumbay Village?
You know what I mean? So, somewhere where, where I have to, with the Big Pond. You know, we have plenty parking, like by the sports center, plenty parking. So people come by and spit on you. That's the kind of, that's what they did in the day, you know. They put you in front, they throw pee and thing on you, man.
I wish like the family members could determine what happens to the individual.
Well, you know, that I think you better leave it with me.
I think you would. I think a family member.
They might be more forgiving.
It's been over 20 years. My brother's been dead, and if I had my druthers.
And what would you do?
I would mete out to the person the same thing what they did to him.
Oh, shoot him?
In the head.
Okay, but
several times.
But I do things like, you know, do it slow, like, you know, start on the foot. See, no, I just feel that people get off too easily with the you know, I'm not biblical, but I'm going to quote biblical.
An eye for an eye.
An eye for an eye.
Mm-hmm.
Basic. It's easy, you know. See, you forfeit it. See, don't you? You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, you do. Yeah, you do.
So we all have rights.
Yeah.
If you look at most constitutions, and I don't know about the Bahamas, they always say, or the ones that seem to be having enlightening, they always say, you have the right to pursuit of happiness, unless it infringe upon other people's rights.
Right.
Right? Mm-hmm. So that's why, you know, when we have these discussions about doing drugs and doing this and sexual preferences, it doesn't matter to me. You're not infringing upon me.
Yeah.
But when you infringe, and what is the most grievous infringement? Taking someone's life.
I think so. There's no coming back from that. There's just no coming back from it.
What do you do when you rape someone? You've taken their life. See, I go, okay. See, that's the dancer. Okay. Okay. Okay.
That's the Edward.
Okay. You get some guys, okay, and you put them in a cage. Okay. What's the matter to do? Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah. You want rape? Okay.
Yeah.
Eye for eye, rape for rape. Okay.
Or just remember.
Well, we'll do that after the action. What I'm saying is, why? I don't care how brutal it sounds. You have made a decision to harm someone who was not even conscious of you.
And deserving of it.
Well, certainly not deserving.
Yeah. And children.
So now we got to. That is why, by the way, you see, you always put me down for this. That's why I go with your sodium pentothal. See, I don't want to do it to someone who isn't guilty.
Yes, absolutely. Because if one person hangs or one person dies because from a mistake,
don't want to do that.
Cannot happen.
I don't want to do it because the evidence was wrong or the police did something. No, I want as close to 100% proof possible. And I want you to think about this, Rogan, because one thing about you always contemplate things. Why do we have a society where it is left up to people to guess whether you did it or not based on evidence that may be trumped up based on what we've heard recently? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay? I told you when I was at The Guardian many years ago and I went to a court case, I came back, I wrote a memo to my file about I ain't confessing to nothing unless if you see this signature, you know that was forced. Mm-hmm. Okay? What I'm saying is, why would we leave that to conjecture?
Yeah, but you keep going on with this thing. This ain't happening.
Why wouldn't
it ain't happening?
Rogan, you realize, of course, that many centuries ago.
Who's using that in this day and age?
No, I'm not saying that. Many centuries ago, they would try you without a jury. It'd just be like some guy sit there and say, okay, you're guilty.
That wasn't the way to go.
Exactly. So they changed to a jury. They modified and said, well, no, we ain't going with that. We need a jury. You need to have a defense because you didn't have no defense before. You just stand there. The king, I think you're guilty of treason. You're going to have to kill you. Plenty of people die without being guilty. They changed. They evolved to a jury, okay, with peers and defense and evidence and forensics and all of that. We try to keep moving. I feel some degree of vindication, if that's the right word, that 25 years ago, I was on the radio talking about the need to decriminalize marijuana. And in those days, that was a risky position to take. Mm-hmm. Okay? But I feel vindicated to realize we've now gotten to the point where people can talk about it, and very serious people are talking about it. Okay? So there's nothing to say that what I'm talking about now, and I'm not just saying only me, about this sodium pentothal, or find something that will simply say, you put it into the arm, you inject it, and you ask Rogan Smith, did you kill Ken?
Yes. I just think
that's it.
I think for now.
Why should you be protecting your
proper investigation? And
but why? But again, let me ask you. You see, all right. I'm gonna, if you don't mind me, because I know this is very emotional and sensitive to you. Your brother was murdered, right? Now, did they ever find the perpetrator?
No.
Okay. Now suppose, and I'm just going to pick a name, Ocknell Jr. They picked him up. Now you want justice for your brother, but you don't want Ocknell Jr., who didn't do it, to be executed or put in jail, do you?
But again, if they picked him up, I would think that they have some evidence to suggest why Ocknell Jr. is
Okay, but let's
the one.
suppose they pick. You've seen, many of us have seen people who have been picked up because someone fingered him because they thought they recognized him, right? They thought, oh yeah, I saw him. And he walked out, wasn't even there. And then the evidence gets twisted and all that. And before you know it, the jury says, you know what? Ocknell did it. So Ocknell goes to jail, maybe for life, maybe executed. And you feel some degree of that justice was done.
The answer is no, I still don't want him to do it because at the end of the day, things have margins of error as well. So you may think putting a needle in someone's arm will make them confess to things. I think that I would have to look at the history of usage for that to see if somebody could confess to something that they didn't do.
I agree.
Okay? Just like somebody will take a lie detector test and they will fail even though they're innocent. And I don't think that's admissible in court.
I agree with you 100%. But let me just say this to you. Suppose mathematically, jury is, say, 65% correct. I don't know the numbers, but let's just say 65%, right? And let's say whatever they come up with is 98%. Well, certainly that's moving in a better direction than 65%. Okay.
It is a better direction, but it's not a flawless
Of course
process.
It's not flawless, but then again, what we have is definitely not flawless. And that's what we have. Don't we want to strive to a more flawless system?
But to your point, you said if one person hangs or one person is killed,
it's too much.
Then it's too much.
But right now, 30 people hang in. It's just a simple mathematical thing for me. We have to continue to strive for perfection. But if we have 35 out of 100 people being wrongfully convicted, and we could get to where only 2 out of 100 are being wrongfully convicted, it doesn't mean we stop trying to get to 100%, but certainly I would prefer 2 versus 35. The system, let me ask you a question.
I know I'm going to come across as an idealist, but I'm going to need a more flawless system than that because,
again, so you're happy with the system we have now then?
I'm not happy with the system we have.
So why would you keep it?
You're talking about a situation with injecting someone for them to confess. And to your point, if one person hangs or one person is killed by the state in any way, shape, or form that is innocent, that's a problem.
Well, then we need to get rid of the jury system and not arrest it. We need to not arrest anyone.
I'm not a fan of the jury system.
Well, we need to shut it down because, to your point, that's too flawed. Because if one is flawed, so we need to just shut everything down.
It's a very flawed. Remember, I told you, I said to you one time, I said, you know something, boy, you I might clown you, but you were talking sense because I had a conversation with a friend of mine. And she was just saying if she were on the jury and a guy came in with the, what he's called fingerlings, a little hair patch growing at the back, he guilty. And I said, what? She said, yeah, because look how he looks. You know what I'm saying? And we had a big, I don't want to call it a discussion. We had a big argument about that.
Yeah.
And to think that someone with that mindset could be sitting on a jury pool determining somebody's fate is a problem for me.
But I'm going to tell you why I'm going to be very candid with you, why your position is flawed. Because simply is the position of one versus the other. Because here's what should happen based on your logic. Let's say I accept your logic, which I do. If that is the case, we got to go? Oh, if your logic is correct, and it is correct, that means that any person brought before the courts today should be released. There should be no one brought before the courts.
Not all. Think I'm going before a jury, and I would hope that proper investigation is done.
No, it is. We know it's flawed. You told me, I'm going by your logic, not mine, that if there's one person in a sodium pentothal scenario, then that shouldn't be used because it's flawed. And I accept that. Let's say I accept that, which I don't, but let's say I accept it. That means that if you know that if a system has where there's 30 people or 30% of the people being convicted wrongly, Is it a praise? Then we need to reject that.
Hold on, but if you have overwhelming evidence being presented in a court of law that Ed feels, I don't even want to say that, killed someone, caught you on tape, your fingerprints are there, boom, 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 one after the other, I have no issue with them convicting you.
Except what happens if it's wrong?
Wrong for what? Me seeing you with my two eyes
on
camera?
No, what happens if someone, what happens if the overwhelming evidence, there's overwhelming evidence where you don't see people on camera. Okay? There's overwhelming, forget about the camera, that's obvious. But if there's, and it could even be where someone fixed the tape. You could always say that. Someone could have doctored the tape. There's always some element of doubt, right? So I'm just saying, and I don't believe this to be the case, that if you're going to attribute the potential of flaws, of being flawed, to the system being rejected, then we have to outwardly reject the system we have.
Yeah, I guess.
So that's all I'm saying is just strive for a more perfect system, and then we mete out the penalty. Because up now, I would have to say I can't support capital punishment, which I do mentally, because I've seen the rate of wrongful convictions. Mm-hmm. Okay, and by the way, up until recently, we didn't know the rate of wrongful convictions. We only know a lot because of DNA and all these type of things now. Yeah. So it's a flawed system.
It's a and even when I wrote in the column today, I said even though there are, for example, Marvin Dames and others who may not be taking the allegations made by that police officer seriously, it does make me think if there is a possibility that it's correct, and if it is correct, who's sitting in jail for something that they didn't do?
Listen,
it's a serious question.
I would hope. But I know what will happen. It's just like the marijuana laws because there's so much vested interest, the liquor companies and the drug enforcement agencies and the police and this and all that, that if we can find a way where they can do testing. See, it's like birth control. It's not 100%, but people take it. If we can find a thing where they do testing after testing after testing and find that out of 100 instances or 1,000 instances, this thing worked 1,000 times, you would not feel comfortable with doing that?
If they did, let's go take a break.
Okay, we'll come right back.
Yeah, so I'll finish the point.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Back in the cowboy days, they didn't fool around. You rustle a guy's cattle. Rustling. Rustling was like the waste of the waste. You steal a man's cattle. That's hang 'em high, the good, the bad, the ugly. Yeah, you steal a man's cattle.
Oh, you going to act?
You're gonna string him up.
You steal a man's cattle.
Yeah, you string him up. You bring him over here, boy. String him up. Mm-hmm. So they didn't fool around. It's almost like, anyway, I don't want to get into it. It's so sad.
Anyway, to your question before the break about, I guess you were going to ask me if there was a chance that it's 1,000 out of 1,000.
Mm-hmm. If they did studies over a period of time.
Then I would say let's go with it.
Okay. Well, we're going to work on the studies. Because the whole system, and you saw like that woman 13 and all that, right? I want to know how societies manage to cope with the fact that they're going to they change a law today, and prior to that law changing, they messed up so many people's lives. There are people's lives who are just messed up because you got high. Yeah. Come on. Meanwhile, some white-collar criminal is stealing old people's pensions, and they're on a yacht. They spent 18 months in some federal prison or something, and they back with their money, and they're on their yacht. Yeah. Saying, hey, how you doing, Bob? I'm good, Bill.
It's sad.
The other issue, the other thing, amongst other things.
But I do feel, before I have to say, I do feel for the folks in Montel Heights, and I honest to God hope that this bloodshed is ended. I really don't want to see, and I think sometimes people are just too far removed because it happens in those areas. They feel, okay, that's happening over there. We're all a part. This is our community.
Well, where people feel removed is because these seem to be, what do you call them, contentious situations. Like Rogan Smith, are you aware of any situation that you would be in? I mean, it can always happen, where let's say you and I row, and then I show up to your house with a gun, and then then after I shoot you, then Illy show up by me. Come on. I mean, it's a thought process I don't understand. But like I've accepted long ago, we're living in parallel worlds here.
Yeah.
Okay, so I can't address it because I'm not it's like, I don't like coffee and I don't like tuna fish. So I can't understand people how they could like tuna fish. But people like tuna fish. So I just, it's
I think in some instances it's just because it's not people's world. We react to it because it's in the media, and then we go right back to our regular lives, and
it's a headline, right?
And we don't think about it.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, there are people who have to then return to that community. People who are trying to heal from being shot.
But this is, this is a kind of a microcosm of the greater picture, right? Again, and I'm not diminishing what happens in our communities, right? Do you know how we handle what goes on in this world? I mean, there are whole civilizations
excuse me,
getting slaughtered. Okay, you see those people traveling from Mexico. Okay, the man dying with his child in the water, right? Whole genocide and refugee camps with people, millions of people starving and dying. People getting picked up by this Boko Haram or whatever they name, so we cope. We cope because if you had to think about all of the bad stuff, and there's a lot of bad. I saw something.
But a lot of that is far removed, though,
but
right?
But the point I'm making is, you see, in our society, this is far removed for many of us. I know it's close geographically, but it's far removed psychologically and emotionally, right? It's like I say, you pick up the obituaries every day, you see people, you don't feel grief. We deal with it. We separate it. So it is what it is.
It's sad.
Simonet resigns from cabinet. I'd gotten an indication from a source about this on Saturday. And in fact, the source was saying that it would happen at 6:30 on Sunday, and that this person would be named to replace him. But no one, I couldn't get any confirmation. There was a lot of tightness. But, there's speculation as to why. But, maybe it's just like he said, well, hey, I'm tired of this stuff.
Do you think he owes the public an explanation as to why he resigned?
No.
No?
I mean, that's my personal thing.
Okay.
I mean,
I'd like to
he's
hear,
not resigning. He's not resigning from his seat.
No, he's still an
MP.
MP.
So maybe just, And you know what? Let me just say this to you, and this sounds really kind of.
And I think I see the point. Before you go on to that, you're saying because if it were his seat, obviously there are people who elected him. There's a greater duty to
do that, right? But you know what I think? You can't win, and no matter what you say,
I absolutely agree with you. This was, to me, it's like okay, he resigned.
He come out with a statement. I know, true. You know why he resigned?
I hate to even use this word, but I'm going to use it. I just feel like this is such jealousy. It's just jealousy.
Listen, you and I have said it many times. I'm sure Carlton, when he comes on, say, when you get in this realm, okay, you're in a no-win zone.
That's how I see.
Okay.
You had an issue with the gentleman sitting in cabinet because you figured, he might be influencing, which I seriously doubt.
Well, it's not.
And now he's not. He's going to be a backbencher. Has nothing to do with cabinet, and it's still an issue.
Look, I'm going to reveal something that I have to be very cautious. But here's the deal. The first and foremost thing when it comes to spending the public purse is to make sure that the public gets the best deal.
Absolutely.
That's number one.
Absolutely.
So I don't want to waste time with, and I'm going to say,
I
don't want to waste time with the numbskulls, okay? To get the best deal. Carlton, come on in. To get the best deal, be paying. Okay. Now I've been in situations. I'm not going to reveal it. Where because of politics,
they'd go
and
without.
because of the concern of the optics, okay, we didn't get the best deal. Okay.
Because of how people would have responded
right? And someone was fearful
of the reaction.
So they, in other words, we spent $4 million more on a project. I was on the board. I can tell you.
Yeah.
Okay. Now
to avoid
it. Now here's the situation. Let's deal with the two different situations. Carlton Smith, welcome, my brother.
Hello.
Please chime in.
Yes, sir.
Please chime in. So here's the situation. Let's just lay it out.
We're talking about
really
the Brent
care
situation.
What people feel.
Yeah.
I'm just going to go, the sky is blue and the grass is green. Now, if you are one of 1,000 people who believe it's different, I don't want to waste time with you on that.
Yeah.
Okay? Now, here's the situation. NAD is a separate entity from the cabinet of the Bahamas. The people need a runway.
Yep.
The people in the NAD board got quotes to fix the runway. Now, let me give you some background. Bahamas Hot Mix is the only company other than Baha Mix, which is the government entity, that sells aggregate. If Carlton, sorry for everyone else, for everyone, okay? If Carlton Smith has a company called Carlton Smith Trucking and Asphalting and wants to get a contract, they have to buy the tar from BHM, which means that Carlton quote is going to be more expensive.
Because he got to go through BHM.
You have to go through me. So the reality is BHM,
can offer,
no fault of theirs, have the plant.
Right.
Okay? Now, they put in a bid, and it's cheaper than anyone else, and they probably have the best experience than anyone else. NAD, which have nothing to do with cabinet, voted for that contract. Period.
It just made sense.
So, I don't have time to listen and to argue. It is what it is. Now, it may be that Mr. Simmons just said, you know what, I'm tired of all of this. I don't, look, face it.
You don't want to deal
I
with
think they say you have 158 million. He don't need this. He don't need this crap. Okay? Just relax. Maybe he was doing some public service, and now he won't.
And now it puts him in a position now where he can go and his companies can bid, and hopefully there's no fallout from that.
Well, then they'll say something. You can't win. See, when you, like I told you, when Carlton, it's like I was telling Rogan one day, I was driving home, and I saw this guy, and he was making noise and disrupting people on the road and all that, and I felt like saying to him, look, can you please just leave the folks alone? They're not disturbing you. Leave them alone. And I then had to calculate in my mind the abuse I was going to take. And he was going to come up with who you think you is just because you have education. Yes, I do. That's not a flaw. But they want to make it a flaw, So how do you respond?
That's a difficult one.
How do you don't, I guess.
I think you should. I think you should, because I think part of the challenge that we have in our society is that I believe both you and Rogan alluded to it earlier, that we are living in different worlds in parallel. Right? And because of that, the expectations of this world is different from the expectations of that world. This world doesn't understand that world. And we have done very little over the years to ensure that those who live in a world that require them to probably upskill, develop themselves, and begin to view life from a different perspective, because we have not placed enough emphasis on that. And we have created somewhat of a dependent culture, entitlement culture in our society over the years.
And leadership has pandered to that world.
Yes, and continue to a large extent. Until we get to the point where we teach people responsibility, personal responsibility. They will always look at you and say, Ed Fields, who the hell you think you are?
Right, precisely.
Who are you to tell me what to do? Because you have this fancy job and you were able to go off to school and I wasn't able to. You think you're better than me.
Right.
But yet we may have started from the same exact spot.
It's from the same spot. You started from the same spot. But because nobody was there to tell them, listen, hey, buddy, if you continue going down this road, this is where you're going to end up.
Well, this is where I say we always end up back to this point about real solid leadership. Okay? That, you've got to be prepared that if you're going to get into that position, that if you're really serious, that you don't expect to win, but you have to do what is right. You should not expect to win the next time. But if you do the right thing, that's the irony for me.
But Ed, I think sometimes we practice what I refer to as beauty pageant politics.
And what's that?
In a beauty pageant, the most beautiful person wins the pageant.
But you got to have some sense.
They don't answer the question.
You got to answer the question. Never mind. You got to answer the question right.
I mean,
the last question can mess you up.
Exactly. Unless the pageant rigged.
The most beautiful
person, at least in the eyes of the judges.
In the eyes of the judges, when the pageant. So we go to an election with a group of people from different political divides, who are coming and they are trying to throw the biggest party, create the biggest fuss.
Pageantry.
Yes, pageantry. That's all it is. It's not about who has the right vision.
Right.
Who can articulate that vision, and we can visualize in our minds what that world looks like, this new world that we are moving toward, this new reality that we're going to embrace following the general election.
It's padded to the lowest common denominator.
The LCD.
Because that's the most votes.
That's the greater percentage of votes.
And it's easier to do that than to
articulate a clear vision to transform the country. Are you saying we got to take a break?
We'll take a break. We'll take a break. Our guest this afternoon is, the airways miss him, Mr. Carlton Smith, who was with Nassau, with Guardian Radio for many years, and now is doing his own thing. But we'll be right back. What you're discussing, Mr. Carlton Smith, and I don't know who's doing the boom on the outside because they cannot possibly be hearing. They have to be deaf. Is maturity. Okay, that's what you're discussing. That if we are as a country to advance, every issue we need to speak to has to be one. I was talking to a young man, I told this to Rogan, and he came into the bank and he started making a lot of noise. And he was saying, I'm for this WOT. Okay? And just making noise. And and he'd start calling my name, and I just ignored him. And then I tried to leave the bank, and then he said, no, you ain't going nowhere. And he goes on, and when he finished, I said, young man, let me say something to you. Do yourself a favor, one favor. Before you say one word, just make sure that you're informed. Because otherwise, the people who are informed, you don't look well to them.
They automatically dismiss you.
And if you don't want to be dismissed, be informed. Doesn't mean you're wrong or right, but be informed. So at least you have an informed view of things. And it seems to me that we just go off without any. You describe very carefully that we have a system. You disclose, you excuse or recuse. And in this case, in the case of the NAD thing, there's no issue of recusal because you're not even on the decision making. It's like saying, Citibank decided to build a runway, right? And Mr. Simonet got his company, which he has a percentage of, got it, and there's a problem.
Yeah, if the Ministry of Transport was issuing the contract, then you had a concern.
Yes,
right.
Yes, absolutely.
If a private entity is issuing the contract, then what is the concern? It's not public funds that we're spending.
Right.
It's a private entity that's paying for it. And so that private entity has the right to determine who gets the contract, how they spend their money.
Precisely.
And whether or not the competing interests qualify to perform the duty or the job that they are requiring them to do.
Well, how many of us sit in jobs where, for instance, let me give you an example. I have a share in, say, X company. I work for a very large company, and that company may do business with that company. I'm not involved in the process.
Right.
Okay.
And that's why in every company, when you reach a certain level of employment, when at your level, they will ask you when you come in to declare your interest in any company.
Yes.
Because they want to know beforehand whether or not you have an interest in any company that they're doing business with.
And that you're making decisions on.
Right.
Okay. We have a whole course that we have to take every year that talks about this.
Right.
And the question is, think about this, ladies and gentlemen, and maybe this might get it. Many years ago, and I think the first public offering was back Global Life Insurance. Do you remember that, Carlton?
Yep.
That was the first public offering that I'm aware of was Global Life Insurance.
Yes.
Now, I want you, ladies and gentlemen, who are sitting out there, who are thinking that Mr. Simonet is conflicted, I want you to think of shares that you hold in Cable Bahamas, in Colina, in Folk Hall, in Commonwealth Brewery, in any of these things. Think about this. When you're having a staff party and you have shares in Commonwealth Brewery, do you recuse yourself from the room when they decide where to get the biz? If you have shares in Abaco Limited, Abaco Market Limited, when you are having a staff party and you have shares in Abaco Markets Limited, right? Mm-hmm. Do you recuse yourself when you decide you can get the Domino pizza? Or do you resign? Mm-hmm. This is what you need to be thinking about at the very basic level.
Precisely.
If we're going to be mature citizens, okay, think about all of you, and I know I catch in a big net, this net catching a lot of people who have shares in Cable Bahamas. You could get it at VTC, you know. You could get Flow. But are you in a decision where you say you want to get Cable? Well, you got shares in Cable. So is there a problem? Where do you bank? You know, your company banks with First Caribbean. Okay, direct deposit. They do their banking with First Caribbean. Do you recuse? You're not recusing yourself because you're not even involved in the decision, man. Right. So just think of it in that way. Just because he may have more than money. You, the principle remains the same.
Yeah, I think sometimes we probably become too concerned about, or we become obsessed with people who we believe from our own perspective and from what the public utterances are, that somebody is abusing the privilege.
Right.
Abusing the privilege.
And so, first of all, we have to understand how the privilege works, how the system works, how the system determines whether or not Ed Fields can bid on a job, or his company can bid on a job, not he directly, but his company can bid on a job that's advertised for the services that his company provides. And if he isn't making the decision himself, if he isn't a part of the group that's making the decision and he's trying to influence the decision in his direction, then there should be no issue with that process.
Does Mr. Simonet owe the public an explanation as to why he decided to resign?
I don't think he owes the public. I think if he feels that it's in his interest as a public figure to provide an explanation, he can. But I don't think that he owes the public an explanation as to why he decided to step down. That's his personal decision.
And Mr. Simonet has, and I'm not saying these are faults, these are just the way that it's set up. He has the opposition to deal with, and then he has the prejudice of a polarized, racially polarized society to deal with. My thing is, you know, sometimes saying nothing is better than saying anything, because people parse word. Oh, what do you think he mean by that? You know, I just don't think it's a win situation. I think, and we've said this already.
I mean, even if it's a win situation, Ed, you know, if you decide tomorrow that you want to resign from Atlantis as vice president or senior vice president at Atlantis, you could decide to tell the media why you resign, or you could decide not to. You know,
the only difference is, of course, I think Rogan is thinking from the perspective of a public servant.
As a public servant, as a public figure.
Right, an elected public, and he's not resigning.
He's not resigning from his elected position. He's resigning from his appointed position.
Right.
He serves at the pleasure of the Prime Minister. He owes the Prime Minister an explanation if he decides to step down.
Right.
He owes his cabinet colleagues an explanation if he decides to step down. But he doesn't owe the wider public an explanation.
Right. No, I think we agree that. Well, first of all, I just want to reiterate that when you decide to go into that sphere, and we've said this before, you have to attribute a large degree of courage.
Oh yeah.
No matter how much you disagree, whatever the deal is to these people, because you know many of us, including myself in that, don't want to step into that scenario. I was going to call it something else, but that's a very, very.
It takes a special person to become a politician.
I agree.
You know, and you know, I have been highly critical of politicians in the past. You know, and I believe that our politicians need to fully understand what is it they're signing up for when they decide that they want to enter that arena.
Do you think they know?
I'm the jury is still out on that. You know, I believe that you know there is no school that you can go to There is no course that you can take to prepare you for the reality.
And we don't start from the lower level.
No.
You know, you're boom.
Right.
I mean, look, Ellsworth Johnson, who is now the Minister of Immigration and Financial Services, right, was sitting in that very chair 3 years ago. He was relatively newly known to the public. He was the president of the Bar Association.
Right.
He was not even, at the time, of course, I think it was posturing, was not certain if he would run. And now he's cast into this, you know, it's like going from zero to, as we can see, President of the United States.
Right.
Okay? You can see what that's fraught with, you know? And that's why, you know, just to go to this point, just to kind of segue in the thing about local government and getting involved in decentralizing, because at least that's kind of a training ground.
But you got to develop it properly. The challenge that I have with our local government, you could serve in local government for 10, 15, 20 years, and when you move to national politics and become a part of the central government system, you have absolutely no knowledge how to govern.
It's still a different
because all you're doing is waiting on somebody to approve something for you.
It is not local government.
And you issue one contract here and one contract there. Right. And so when you come to government, you bring all of those bad practices of contract.
What is, ironically,
that's
as we
point.
speak, and I just finished doing a taping for something, a presentation, is what is being advocated is a system of strong local government, not that which does not exist in the Family Guard. I was going to say Family Guard, the Family Islands, because they do not have the power of the purse.
Right.
Yeah.
They are reliant on central government to allocate at their whim funding. They don't have the necessary parameters in place to determine how they can be recalled, how they can be elected. You know, it's all very patrimonial.
There's a fundamental point that's missing from the discussion of governance in our country. How are we going to develop the Commonwealth of the Bahamas? Central government, the consolidated fund approach, has demonstrated to us that it is woefully inadequate.
Woefully.
And we have to think about 20 years from now, what will be the next major economic center in this country? Is it going to still be New Providence driving all aspects of the Bahamian economy? Or are we going to develop economies of scale in North Andros, Eleuthero, Exuma? Are we going to develop a real economy in Exuma, or are we going to allow Exuma to continue to operate the way it's been operating, waiting on somebody to tell them you need a new airport, you need a new port of entry, waiting for the central government to decide whether an investment can come to Eleuthero, to Exuma?
Well, the thing is this. I mean, you put your finger on it, right? Because what you're doing is this. First of all, if you assume that Eleuthera, Exuma, Abaco, Andros, Grand Bahama, and some of the other islands, they have their own brain trust, okay? But that brain, and the same thing goes for New Providence, by the way, okay? But that brain trust, and this is not to diminish those who are in the central government, exists in one pool. We're not allowing other pools to be innovative.
Right.
Any innovation has to be, let me put these in brackets, approved by the people who feel that they're the approvers. Okay? So the reality is you should be decentralizing and disseminating approval.
Right.
So that Rogan Smith, look at our households. Okay? Suppose someone said, I have to approve how every house looks.
Right.
Then all the houses will look the same.
Yeah.
Okay? And it could be bad.
Right.
Okay? But we allow our individual innovation to determine how we want our house to look. Okay? And how our household should be run, how our lawn should look. If you took that same level of dissemination and placed it on Exuma, those people are capable of telling investors who are welcome to their country.
Right.
Eleuthera.
Yeah.
Abaco. But and by the way, you know, we had Marlon Johnson on.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're aware of this, Carlton, but I'm sure you are. But it is not a subject that gets covered a lot. And I'm determined now. I offered a bank now. We're on to this one now. this is the next project, that the NEC, which the average Bahamian has no knowledge or connection with, has to be abolished. The NEC, there are two entities. There's the Bahamas Investment Authority, and there's the NEC. If a foreign investor comes in this town and has a project that is not, well, any project, he has to go to the BIA, which is fine, to show what things you need to do. And then it has to go before a subcommittee of cabinet. It's about 6 guys who determine whether or not that investment is appropriate. How nuts is that?
That's not only nuts. You know, we talk about the potential for corruption.
I was just about to say that it is right there.
Me, Ed, and Rogan sitting on this committee trying to decide whether this investment should come to the Bahamas. We can potentially determine
who the lawyer is,
or everything.
Who the accountant is,
everything.
All elements.
You know,
and that's
how
in
we're
our
going to get our cut.
It just makes no sense.
Trace it back to us.
Absolutely.
Put in place the WTO, the
right.
Oxford Economics Study. One of the byproducts, because they didn't even know it existed, that they discovered, was that in order for WTO or any kind of environment to work with a free trade zone economy zone environment, is that we have to do a lot of reform in this country aside from WTO.
Right.
And one of the things that they highlighted most is that NEC has to go. Okay?
Right.
What we should have in place is clear parameters. As Marlon pointed out, if you want to go and open up a restaurant in Florida, you take your money, you go to the mall at wherever, you say, can I rent your space? They say, this is a deposit. You say, can I put a food and beverage place here? No. The law doesn't allow food and beverage.
Right.
What can I put here? You can put clothes. You need light? Go to FPL. You need water? Go to whatever. You don't go to the mayor.
No.
To decide if you can invest there. We're going to wind this up. We're going to come right back. I want to talk more about this NEC, and then I want to talk to you about where you think the government is headed. We'll be right back. We're talking with Carlton Smith, who many of you know. I don't have to introduce him, formerly of the Guardian Radio, and now with, of course, Urquhart. He's not here in that capacity, but we'll get him here in that capacity one of these days. Just to go back briefly, I want to talk, this NEC, because I think Bahamians. See, I'm happy that we've had the guests that we've had on the show, because it doesn't have to be what we're saying, Rogan and I, as opposed to what they have said. Ryan Pinder, James Smith, Julian Francis, all of them, Peter Turnquist. The Bahamas relies on foreign direct investment.
No doubt.
The standard of living that we say we want and we don't wish to lose was based on foreign direct investment. Okay? Now, we say we want to welcome investors, but then we have these obstacles that just chase them away. And one of those is the NEC.
Well, I think, Ed, one of the challenges that we have is that we have this view that we understand what it takes to develop the Bahamian economy. And we boast of the investments that were made in the Bahamian economy through various sectors, like the financial services sector, for example, and the tourism sector. And then we don't spend sufficient time trying to assess and analyze what has led to that level of success in the economy. What is necessary for us to continue to build on that success?
And what we've missed out on.
And exactly. And thirdly, how do we create in parallel a strong domestic component to our economy?
Right.
By ensuring that as we encourage that foreign money that we need in the country, that we are creating a generation of Bahamian entrepreneurs who are contributing to this new vibrant approach to economic development that we need.
But it seems to me, all right, let's use tourism as an example. The reality is we have developed in this country, and if we realized it and took advantage of it, we would see the benefit. A cadre of trained tourism professionals that in a open free trade environment could work anywhere in the world. That's a fact. Okay? We don't take advantage of that, but that's the reality. Okay? The reality is if we opened up things, and I know I bring up these examples all the time, that allowed things that don't even exist into this country, that Bahamians who are studying in these countries abroad and the UK, the US, Canada, who are getting some advanced degrees. Let me bring it home personally. I just went to Eleuthera to visit my daughter. She's at the Cape Eleuthera Institute. You may have seen about 3-4 months ago on 60 Minutes a boat called the Alusha. It's a research boat, 200-foot boat, that has a submarine on it and does deep sea, goes down to 1,000 meters. Okay? Anderson Cooper was interviewing the owner, a big billionaire. My daughter was on that boat for the last week. I wasn't even aware to the extent that she was on it because she doesn't tell me these things. And when I watched her interact with these world-renowned experts in their field, the guy who counts who takes record of all the shark attacks in the world, the guy who goes down in the submarine, and I mean, it's just that's what but these things are existing in this country. And as a result of that, Bahamians who go and study marine science or biology, they can be a part of that.
See,
but if we said, you know what, you can't come in here.
You talked about innovation earlier. We think about innovation in the context of pure technology. We don't think about innovation in the diverse sectors of the society.
The creative sectors.
The creative sectors. Coming up with these new novel ideas. And some of them may not even be novel. They may be just an improvement on something that was done 10, 15, 20 years ago. But you have these young people who are prepared to spend some time studying and researching and making sure that they develop an understanding and appreciation for how this was a successful business idea 30 years ago, and it's no longer a successful business. How do we create this idea and bring this to market and create investment opportunities as a result?
Because of exposure.
Exactly.
You can listen, we have very limited resources in this country, and I'm not denigrating anything, but let's say the Department of of Agriculture, Marine Fisheries, right? They have so many resources. So you can come back, you can be a marine scientist, and you can work for that department. But you're going to be kind of stuck in a limited scope of what you can do because of resources.
Right.
We don't have the resources to have a research ship that goes around the world with a submarine. Okay? No. So now you have a young child, when I say young child, they're not a child, a young woman who is exposed to this. You don't know what that clicks in their mind. They may end up someday having a research ship. I can tell you, I won't tell you off the air, I can tell you what that exposure has done, and I'll tell you off the air for that particular person who was exposed to these people.
But the exposure is what is going to drive the new generation of leadership in our country. They don't want the next generation of leaders to just continue the status quo that we have created in the society. Our leaders have been operating from the same script for the last 50 years.
Who's going to open that door? That's the question, Rogan Smith, right? Who's going to decide one day, you know what? We've got to open the door. Yes, there will be things we have to work and tweak and make certain that we benefit. Yeah.
But those young people you talked about are the ones who are going to open the door. They're going to begin to challenge the status quo. They're going to begin to see things different.
I hope they are. I hope what doesn't happen is they say, you know what, the door is closed. I'm staying outside over there. That's the problem. They're going to open the door. We had a young lady.
They will stay away to the extent to which we don't embrace them home.
Right. Myron Roll, the young lady who spoke to the College of the University of the Bahamas the other day. Harvard neurosurgeons, Bahamians. And I'm sure you can go around the world and see these examples. The world has opened the door for them, and they have now gone, and those places have benefited from them. Why can't we open the door to the rest of the world so that we, as well as our Bahamian students and young entrepreneurs and creative people, can learn, and then do the thing? You can't learn in an insulated environment.
But is it always a scenario when we open the doors where our people benefit from that learning
No,
experience?
that's what I'm saying. You have to tweak. I'm saying you have to. Well, the U.S. is making the same cry. I'm saying that's where you have to. That's where your control is. It's not control by closing. It's control that when you open it, you then make sure that there are things you can put in place to control. Yes, of course, of course. Okay, for instance, if you and I'm going to go back to my motorcycle example again. If you allow a design company to come into the Bahamas to design motorcycles, and where we have no motorcycle designers now, okay, it should be that if a Bahamian comes back who is a motorcycle designer comes back to this country, and they have 10 positions for motorcycle designer, that one of them is supposed to be for that guy. You know what I'm saying? Automatic.
Think about the government's idea for the creation of a technology hub in Grand Bahama. I call it a center of innovation and
well, that place in Silicon Valley.
Right.
Excuse me.
And so when we think about that center, we should not think about the foreign component that may have to come in to help us develop it. We must be thinking about the tens of thousands of Bahamian young people that we're going to be developing over the next 15, 20 years.
30 years, right.
Who will own this industry and who will redefine what the city of Freeport represents to the Bahamian economy through one fundamental decision to think differently about the creation of opportunities for Bahamians, understanding that the global economy is now driven by technology and innovation. And if we don't embrace it, we're going to continue to be...
And for that investor, Carlton, who is doing that, you know what? People don't get it. It's to his advantage to have Bahamians who are trained, who work there. He doesn't have to worry about people being relocated and people missing the family in in Alaska, and it's just easier.
We should have a STEM academy on every single major island in this archipelago. New Providence, Grand Bahama, Eleuthera, Exuma, Abaco should have a STEM.
Right. Do you know in your field, in Rogan's field, and I take myself out of it.
No, you're in
because the one I'm about to talk about, because of the technology and the access to the technology, we have a cadre of creative people here, in graphic artists, studio people, film, etc. Because you know why? They don't have to have a $15,000 camera anymore.
No.
Okay? So the creativity, see, it used to be where because you owned the $15,000 camera, you got to be the one who were creative.
Right.
But if you can be creative, you just didn't have the camera.
Right.
Now, the $400 camera shows that you're just as creative as the guy who before had the $15,000 camera. So when
that $900 camera you have
exactly. So when the guy comes to the Bahamas and says, "I want to open up a film studio," yes. And by the way, when he opens up the doors and says, "I need graphic artists, I need animators, I need," guess what will happen? Bahamians will apply, and he's going to go, "Wow."
Think about this. Content drives almost every communications industry in the world today. How many Bahamian content developers do you think have content anywhere in the technology space, the communication space?
I couldn't speak to it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know.
Well, we have a number of Bahamians who are putting their stuff on YouTube.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Trying to get some level of exposure. But we have no platform to showcase the work of the Bahamian creative community, because we have not embraced local content as a potential industry.
Well, I can speak to that.
Yeah.
For instance, I always marvel at how, I'm just going to pick up a thing. Let's just say Soya Boy. Okay. Now I don't know how it's done, so I'm not okay. What's supposed to happen in the world of this is he comes to them with a program,
pitch it,
and says, "Look, this is mine," and they go, "You know what? We can give you $50,000 for this."
It doesn't work like
and
that.
then they go and get the commercials.
Right. No.
Okay. No.
He has
you
to
have
pay
to
them.
you have to pay for the production. Well, yeah, that's what you need to do. If you're the producer, you pay for the production. But he has to pay for space and maybe get his own ads.
Sponsors, yeah.
Okay.
It's backwards.
That shouldn't be the case. So we have to start to say, and you know what that comes about, Carlton? About value.
Yeah.
Because we don't want to pay for that
as
a country. Our ad space, because granted, some of that is because of the size of the market. Okay, but but things are getting so cheap. His cost of production should be so inexpensive now that the cost of buying that show from him has gone down dramatically because it's not at that cost to him. He doesn't have $1 million production costs, right? He could be spending $1,000.
Right. Even back then, it wasn't $1 million. Even back then, it wasn't tens of thousands of dollars. You have low budget productions that you can commission for content, provide developers in the society. You can help shape what that product is going to be.
That should have been the space that ZNS filled.
Well,
they should have been filling that space.
I have a history with that place, and there was a time when I recommended to them that every year we should allocate $1 million that we get from the subsidy of the government to development of local content.
Exactly.
And buy content
and
from them.
Every year, if we were developing new content, and over the years we are able to increase that. You could create a programming channel that has predominantly at least 75 to 80% Bahamian content.
Well, if you got money to buy Sanford and Son,
and then still playing
Bold and Beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay, you got money to invest in Soya Boy. So I'm just saying, I'm hoping that maybe but by the way, that is where activists, we're so limited in our activism, and I'm saying this even to the creative community. I don't hear them yelling.
Yeah.
They should be out there yelling to say to the government, look, buy our content. Okay? Not all of it's going to be good. Don't buy everything. You buy, you have a panel of people who know what, but there's good content.
There's one thing that motivates Bahamians. Political decisions. Any political decision would get people going. If you get a government tomorrow said, we're not going to spend another dollar on something, you will hear Bahamians kicking and screaming. But if you say to Bahamians, listen, we need to have some serious advocacy around this particular issue. If the government is not directly involved or politics is not directly involved, there's no motivation for them to move. And I don't understand why.
Well, again, so this is where we as a society, and we have to go very shortly, have to take responsibility here. You have a burgeoning creative community.
Yes.
Granted, yes, you could see it on YouTube, but that's not where people get content to that extent. Okay, I mean, yes, people get it, but if you want a wider audience, okay, Soya Boy is seen on this, but it's seen on TV as well.
He has to be seen on multiple
platforms, right? Yeah, but ZNS, who's been essentially schizophrenic, for want of a better term, in its outlook, right? Should have been a PBS of NASA of the Bahamas,
funded to a large extent by our money.
It's already funded, and say use that funding to nurture Bahamian content. Yeah. Carlton Smith, thanks for coming by. Always a pleasure.
Yes. Thank you.
We'll have to get you here, and you'll have to tell us about what's going on with the big URCA.
I have to get approval to come and talk.
Yeah, get approval, man. What's my man's name?
Steven Burrow.
He comes on every now and again as well.
I'm sure.
Yeah. He's
a nice guy.
He's a progressive fellow. All right. Well, and he told me I am allowed to curse every now and again. So there you go. All right. So listen to Ken's point. Thank you for coming by, folks. We'll see you on Thursday. Have a good Monday, and stay safe out there. Thank you.